Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who's going to record this entire episode while tied up in a Langford double. It's Phil Briggs.
Are you watching closely? Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going to be struggling to get out of this straitjacket the entire pod. I'm also encased in a block of ice. You can't hear it through the sound quality, but I've been living in this iceberg for the last 24 hours as well.
Oh, and your wife drilled a hole into the ice and shoved a microphone in that MFF guest frequent since maybe 2017, Adam Hodgins. So there was a teamwork between Adam and your wife getting this microphone into you.
Yeah, exactly. No, they dropped it in. They put it in through my feed hole. Like I got straws, if I need to eat and that sort of thing. And then they just kind of yeah, exactly. It's cold, but I'm from Canada, man. We can handle some cold up here.
Just the dedication of the MFF guests. I mean, it's just amazing. And you're stuck in this ice cube right now. Oh,
it's
man.
It's method podcasting, right? Like it's like, all right, we're doing the Prestige today. How do I get into the magician's headspace? It's like block of ice. I guess I could suspend myself in the air for a certain period of time. I don't know. That seems to be the magic du jour nowadays.
Man, I have a feeling Ricky Jay, Chris Nolan, John Nolan, they're all impressed with what you're doing right now. You're going to be on their radar. You're going to be directing Prestige 2.
I'll at least take a consulting gig or something, right? Prestige 2. Yeah. I wonder what that sequel. What's going to happen in Prestige 2?
Well, all right. So, okay. So, there's it can't just be Prestige 2. So what? Okay. So we know that there's still one Bale kicking around, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know Kane's still kicking around. Cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So they're somewhere. I mean, Angier, he might have more clones roaming around. Tesla could hear about it.
Yeah.
So Prestige 2 Multiplicity.
I think maybe it's like Prestige 2, but it's like the war of two business tycoons. And so you've got, Angier and Tesla just go into the hat business. And they're just cloning top hats.
They're just churning top hats out.
Yeah, they're just churning out top hats with their new manufacturing methods, and they're just creating this top hat monopoly. And then Borden is somehow going to come in and disrupt their hat empire. And he's going to
start making hats. He's going to introduce the bowler hat.
Right. Exactly.
The trucker hat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be the hat industry going in a completely different direction in the context, though, of two magicians as business industry tycoons.
Okay, so you're wealthy beyond all. If you look at somebody and say money isn't an option, you mean it. You just mean it.
Sure.
You find Tesla up in Colorado Springs and you say to him, hey, make me that machine that you made. He's like, listen, I'm not going to do that again. Do you know how that ended? There were clones, there was death, there was hangings. It got ugly. You're like, listen, I'll double it. He's like, okay, I got you. What item, aside from it's because it does make you, if you're looking for revenge, it will kill you. But what item would you clone to make money off of? Just clone.
Oh, man. I mean, so... Especially too, we're late 1800s, early 1900s. Mm-hmm. So I just feel with the amount of industry and things that's happening now, I don't know, if could we get a Wright Brothers plane in there and just start pumping planes off of the assembly line, or
machine guns, AK-47s?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You have to come from the future to the past.
Yeah,
you have to back to future it.
Yeah, so if we're looking at their existing technology that they had at the time, I don't know, maybe the top hats is the way to go. You just maybe they had it right.
Everyone needs them. Everyone needs a top hat.
You need it, and for different occasions. And I don't know what the durability of those top hats is like. A strong gust of wind blows it off. It's don't need to worry about getting this thing dry cleaned anymore. I've got 1,000 of these things.
Because you know how multiplicity with Michael Keaton works. I have a question. If you clone one of the cloned hats, does that make a dumber hat, a weaker hat, a cheaper hat?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know how there's Gucci bags and then there's Gucci knockoff bags? Is that what that hat becomes?
Yeah, that's probably it. And then you just go to the local flea market, and they've just got all kinds of those hats, the knockoff sunglasses and things like that.
And you're selling those too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Angier.
like House of Gucci, House of Phil Briggs.
I'm gonna circle back with you on that. I'll think of
Top
something
hats.
that we could clone and start a business empire. I mean, I'm sure like maybe you found some gold somewhere or something. It might be nice to clone some of that. I don't know.
And I gotta tell you, thank you so much for recommending this movie because I've really enjoyed revisiting this film. And it's interesting. When I watched this movie in '06, I have an interesting relationship with Nolan films in that when I watch Memento, I just let it wash over me. Like I remember the first time I watched it, I had heard all this buzz about it. Oh, you gotta like pay attention. But I just let it wash over me and I wasn't looking for clues. I just embraced it and I thought it was beautiful. So when I went in to watch The Prestige, when I go in to watch Tenet, Dunkirk, I know there's alternating timelines. There's like, different people, different like just, there's just all sorts of things going on. But I like just letting Nolan movies wash over me. And I remember watching this film and I just let it happen. And what's interesting of all the Nolan films there's some beautiful twists and turns. I mean, they lay it out in the beginning. I mean, it's worth rewatching because you can see everything that goes on. They try to fool you in the beginning. You have the 3-act structure, right? The pledge, the turn, the prestige. But you know what's interesting? Of all the Nolan films, I feel like this is one of the more straightforward because it's twisty and turny, it's nonlinear, but at the end, you understand what happened. Or no, were you in that place when you watched this?
Yeah, no, I agree. I see what you're saying. I mean, in some ways, there's less of like a plot gimmick, if you will, right? So I agree. The first time my discovery of Nolan was seeing Memento in my senior year of high school, or 12th grade for us Canadians, or grade 12.
Yeah, 12th grade, yeah.
Yeah. And we were watching it in like, our intro to philosophy class, all about, how do you really know things and whatever else, and the idea of playing with time and memory and all of that. The reality is that Memento, incredible film, but really it's like in a way the way that the story is told and the reverse chronology is a huge element in the film. And for all that, in this story, we're playing with time and we're visiting different points in the plot, and we're jumping around as Nolan always does. But there's maybe a little bit less of, the chronology being the gimmick. Like we've got a little bit more of a straightforward story, two rivals, pushing the limits, jealousy, envy, love, so maybe more traditional storytelling elements that are here, certainly dressed up and twisted and turned as only Nolan can do. Yeah, I would say maybe this is maybe more of a traditional style story that Nolan is telling here compared to some of his other work, for sure.
And that's a great point you make because you think about Usual Suspects and Kaiser Sose, right? That's like such a big twist at the end. When you think about I See Dead People, M. Night Shyamalan twist. I love that in those films. But I think what makes The Prestige more watchable than a lot of those movies is that exactly what you said. I mean, this one, yes, there's some twists and turns, but you can kind of roll with it if you think about it. And it's all there in front of you and they explain it. They show you what happens behind the magic trick. And I think that's what makes this Nolan's for me, most rewatchable movie. Because I know I said I hadn't seen it in a while, but I don't know. I love Interstellar, but I just can't sit down and watch Interstellar. I don't know if you can do that.
You got to be in the right. Yeah, some movies like that, Interstellar definitely being one of them. I mean, the reality too is that his movies they're epic, they're lengthy, and so you really got to be in the right headspace to sit down and digest an entire Nolan movie. And so many twists and turns, so many different elements of playing with time and that sort of thing. There's a lot going on, and so this being, I think, a little bit more, again, of a traditional story told in a little bit more of a traditional way, I agree, makes it very, very rewatchable. And I also think that, for all that, the twist at the end is amazing. And, confounding and completely. The first time that I saw it, my brain exploded and I couldn't believe it. There's a lot going on that you can still rewatch it and see new things that maybe you didn't see the first time, right? You're not just sort of, okay, once I've seen it, I know what the twist is. This movie sort of loses its rewatchability. I mean, to a certain degree, like I love Fight Club, okay? One of my favorite films of all time for sure. I would say that once you sort of know the twist in Fight Club, it is only ever going to reach a level of enjoyment on the rewatch. And maybe like with M. Night Shyamalan, it's the same thing with some of those films where the twist looms so large as one of the takeaways from the film. Once you know, you can't go back and see that again for the first time. It's just, you're only going to enjoy it maybe 75-80%, whereas I don't think that that's the case here. I think that there are so many other amazing things happening, so many hints that I didn't notice about the twist that's coming, that even on the rewatch, this time in preparation for our conversation today, just so many good hints that I had never noticed before. And I've probably seen this movie half a dozen times. So yeah, I agree, super rewatchable, super enjoyable. Definitely one of Nolan's best films for sure as well.
I think one of the smartest things that he did was, when I sent you the behind the scenes, documentary that Nolan did.
Yeah.
Well, and when you think about, what's interesting, this is what gave me the biggest kick. Not that it was a fake, the journal was a plant, and that Tesla accidentally, he somehow, it was a joke, but he somehow got Tesla to create something that can clone hats and people, and it led to his downfall. But then Jackman didn't know that he had a twin, but learning that the costume designer didn't want this to look stuffy. The way she dressed Johansson, like the way she dressed a lot of the characters, they wanted them to look more modern. And then you look at, there's very little carriage work in this movie. There's very little, hey governor, would you like a chimney sweep? There's very none of that going on. Terrible accent. My apologies, but you do watch a lot of those, stuffy kind of period dramas. He made this feel modern. I mean, in the beginning, when Piper Perabo, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale are talking to Michael Caine in the back, and they're just talking about, this guy's all stuffy. He's not going to move on. If anyone can do this, how can they do it? Then you show the guy with the fishbowl, which is what this was actually sort of based on. The guy who wrote the book knew about the magician who did that. But it feels modern. It feels alive.
Completely agree. I mean, they're pushing the boundaries of science and technology, pushing the limits of what, I guess around this time, like these types of performances were sort of very popular in real life. And so, and I read something interesting that sort of said, it might have even been Nolan himself, a quote that he had about this film where he said, in this period, the things that they were doing in the scientific community were almost considered like magic. Like the idea of inventing electricity was something that was magic. I mean, eventually, we're going to get to human flight in, 10, 20 years. And like that idea would have seemed like magical to people at the time, right? Like incredible. Yeah.
Burn him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I completely agree. Or the way that it's shot, it's bright. The costumes are bright and bold. Completely
handheld camera. There's not a lot of static shots. So when you think of sometimes period dramas, you think of dolly shots. You think of static cameras. And there are some beautiful films out there that I adore that employ static shots. Like Portrait of a Woman on Fire, I think is one of the best looking movies I've seen. But they frame it in a very artistic period element, which makes sense for the narrative. But this one, Nolan's using handheld. And they said they didn't even mark it. They were just having the actors act, and everyone had to be on it for entire scenes. But I think that alive feeling shows on this. Like Nolan said he was making an independent film after Batman Begins, which is bonkers to make an independent film with this cast. But the studio loved it. And I guess after watching that and hearing Nolan say that and just hearing the casting crew talk about how they found all the locations in LA, this didn't feel like, I don't know. Wally Feister's camera work. Nathan Crowley's one of my favorite production designers. He got nominated for an Oscar on this. So did Wally Feister. Mm-hmm. But it just feels, okay, yes, it's a period piece, late 1800s, early 1900s, but it feels so modern. And the way they talk too, it's not just, you know what I mean? It's just not,
It's not stuffy. It's not boring. I agree. And I love those scenes where they're in the back during the shows and you've got the handheld cam kind of moving from side to side. And there's no blocking. The actors are just walking around and the camera crew are just responding to what they're doing and following them around. And so it's quick. It's snappy. Those were some of my favorite scenes for sure. And in a lot of ways, like this feels like a blockbuster. How did this do at the box office? It made like 160 million or something worldwide.
It was up in that range. It definitely cleared 150. Let me pull. I got the page right here. I can pull this up. So it ended up making 110 million. But get this though, on a budget of 40 in 2006. Like let's jump in some inflation, whatever. But that's like 55 million right now. That's what's funny. You and I talked about this on our last episode with Limitless. Like this is, but you know what's crazy? Limitless that we watched feels like a $30 million movie, right? But The Prestige does not feel like a $40 million movie. But that's a credit to Nolan and Nathan Crowley and Wally Feister. They shot in LA, right? They didn't even build too many sets. They would just go to backlots. They would go to abandoned theaters. Like they just let natural light play its part. So this was like this is one of the more expensive looking $40 million movies you're ever going to see.
Yeah, it just feels big. It feels epic. And I think with this cast too, I mean, I don't know about you. I was sort of scrolling through some of Nolan's other films, and I think that this might be one. I mean, obviously the guy gets incredible actors for all of his films, but Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Michael Caine, of course, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, like this might be one of his best cast films. I mean, I was looking at, Christian Bale in and around this time, kind of what he had done leading up to this. And because upon the rewatch, I was like, what a cast. Like these are some of the biggest actors in the world in this film. At the time, it's kind of interesting because Christian Bale had just done, obviously, Batman Begins with Nolan. And prior to that, I mean, American Psycho, like what were some of his other really...
So he did Machinist, right? And then he bulked up to play... Yeah, so we had American Psycho, Reign of Fire, which we talked about a lot on the Movies, Films, and Flakes podcast. He had done that. Newsies. He wasn't...
Swing Kids, that's another one of my favorites.
Like, people knew Christian Bale, but he had just sort of exploded with Batman. I think before that, with like Laurel Canyon and a few other movies, you knew the dude was good. Like if you were kind of in the underground, you're like, yeah, this guy's something else. American Psycho, that movie didn't really do too well, and so that definitely was a word of mouth hit. So yeah, I mean, at this time he was at the height of his powers. Jackman had already made X2, which was a blockbuster, and X-Men, which was a blockbuster. So he was a known commodity. Johansson was already an Oscar nominated for Lost in Translation. Rebecca Hall, she had been crushing it for several years. I mean, Michael Caine, geez Louise. So it's like you said, Andy Serkis, everyone knew him as the Lord of the Rings guys. Having Ricky Jay, the sleight of hand guy, in there helped a lot. It was just a good cast. It was and yeah. You want to like too that I sent you an article, I believe it was from Vanity Fair, that was from 2006, and Christopher Nolan said that this is like one of my favorite quotes of this. He basically said Hugh Jackman is actually a really good actor, but this is his best performance. Like he didn't knock on superhero movies, but he also kind of said like Hugh Jackman's going to show the world what he can do here. Like you guys haven't seen him really act yet. And I think this is where Greatest Showman comes from. This is from him. Remember, like, so Wolverine, he's really good, but he's very surly. This is him owning a stage. This is him. I mean, he had done Broadway, correct, but that's a very limited audience. This was in front of the world to see on a huge screen. This kind of showed the world that Hugh Jackman could hold his own with kind of Christian Bale.
This might be Hugh Jackman's best performance. I mean, I'm just looking back through. So
The Fountain, I think, is up there, right? The Fountain's got to be in there.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar for Les Mis, I guess, as well. But, so he's good in that. I would say probably, in all honesty, and so for all that it is superhero, his performance in Logan, I just loved that movie so much, and just felt that film like resolved that character story so well, and it was just such a great ending to an epic journey for an amazing amazing character, but this is right up there among his best performances for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, he's funny in Eddie of the Eagle, but I guess if it was, so Prisoners, he's really good. I guess if I had to put together a really quick top five for Hugh Jackman, I would say Fountain, not in no order. Fountain, Prestige, not Swordfish. Fountain, he got nominated for a Golden Globe for Kate and Leopold. I just know that off the top of my head. You know, Kate and Leopold kind of foretold his his future in time traveling movies because he's in The Fountain. He's in Days of Future Past. I just want to bring
I love
that
Days
in
of
there.
Future Past too. Yeah,
so,
that movie's a lot of fun.
But all right, so I'm gonna say Logan, Prestige, The Fountain, I guess Les Mis, and Prisoners. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greatest Showman,
I mean,
whatever.
I don't think I've seen Greatest Showman. He's a great actor though. He's a superstar actor. I think I fell asleep during that movie Australia, but that one was a little rough.
I think Nolan knew what to do with him because I watched a movie this year called Reminiscence, and they had him playing a hard-boiled noir detective in a swamped Miami, and just hearing him try to come across like a Sam Spade, like a Bogart, I just never bought it for an instant. I really didn't. So in this one, having him be this sort of slightly desperate, trying really hard, he's clearly a good magician and he's got money, but he's not Christian Bale in this. But it's just, I think Nolan knew exactly what to do with him in this role. And I think that's why it's one of my favorites. And because this isn't Hugh Jackman, he's clearly acting, but this isn't him playing a role as like an aggrieved parent in Prisoners. This is him embracing his, theatrical roots and thriving. I mean, it's probably one of his more natural roles.
And I love that contrast. I love that contrast between the two characters that, they say a few times that Christian Bale's character Borden, like he's actually the better magician from a purely technical, standpoint. But Hugh Jackman, Angier, is the better showman. He's the better performer. And what's interesting is when I was reading about the casting of this movie, so for all that Bale and Kane had already worked with Christopher Nolan on Batman Begins, Hugh Jackman was actually the first role that was cast in this film. And I guess at that meeting, Nolan sort of said to him, which of the two characters do you think you would want to play? And originally Jackman had been thinking that he wanted to play Borden, but I guess either Nolan talked him into playing Angier or whatever, and it ended up working out really, really well because Christian Bale then sort of said afterwards he's not sure he would have been able to play Angier, and that in real life, to a certain degree, that contrast is true for the actors. That again, you mentioned Hugh Jackman has the Broadway experience, he's been on the stage, and Christian Bale hasn't really done that type of stuff, and so he's a lot more like the Borden in real life, kind of that's very technical method actor, the machinist losing all the weight and all of that, whereas Jackman's able to tap into more of that showman type character in this film. So very interesting. I was going to ask you too, though. So I was reading about Nolan because I agree with you. I think that he got a great performance out of Hugh Jackman. But one of the things that I was reading that really caught my eye was the fact that so few of the actors in Nolan's movies have been nominated for Academy Awards or really been sort of like recognized with any type of hardware for their performances in his films. What would you attribute that to, do you think?
I think that it's just a lot of genre. If you look, I know Heath Ledger won for Dark Knight, right? Yep. That was a huge performance for Nolan.
That was the only one. That's the only actor in any Nolan film that has won an Academy Award for their performance.
But I guess if we go back and look through it, like Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey's crying scene,
phenomenal performance.
Yeah. But I think genre rarely wins. And if you go back through Oscar history, it's always the biopics. It's the dramatic roles. Very rarely comedy wins. I mean, if comedy won, Bill Murray, I think, should have won for Groundhog Day and Kingpin. Absolutely. So I think with the Dark Knight trilogy, with Dunkirk wasn't about the acting, right? Tenet, but also too, if you think about it, right? and this is a problem with, I was reading about this with Spielberg. Spielberg has had a lot of actors nominated, but very few have won. If you look through, yes, you can find a few examples of actors winning for Spielberg movies. But I think when you go to a Nolan movie, or, even Wes Anderson movies to a certain extent, actors typically don't win the awards. And yes, there are exceptions to the rule. I hate when there's like 99, but then someone's like, well, there's one person. Yeah. Like, no, like that's one. That's one. That's not the 8,000. But I think that's a great question, because when there's a Wes Anderson movie that's reliant upon style, production design, and Wes Anderson's strict direction, when there is a Nolan film like Tenet, which I love, but it's more about the visuals, the production design, the style, the mystery. Dunkirk is more about the war, the ticking clock, the constant movement. Dark Knight, I think Christian Bale, Batman's never going to win an Oscar, right? Batman's never going to, but the Joker can, because right. Two Jokers have won already.
Yeah.
So I think that, and also Jack Nicholson was attracted to play Joker, Oscar winner. Jared Leto, Oscar winner, was approached to play Joker. So there must be something about that role. But I think it's just a Nolan picture. And when you look at Spielberg movies, Hanks didn't win for Saving Private Ryan. Yes, people have won for Spielberg movies, but I think when it's a Spielberg movie, a Nolan picture, but that's what gets it. But then I guess if you do a flip side with Scorsese, there's a Scorsese picture, but he also has monologues. The characters, the De Niro's and Taxi Driver get all-timer monologues, right? They get Raging Bull, some of the finest performances known to man. So I think Scorsese, he's more of like an actor's director, so then they win, but Nolan's more about the Nolan style. And I think that maybe hurts some of the actors, aside from Heath Ledger, of course. But that's what I would say. It's just the way that people look at these movies, the way they watch them, and that's probably why they don't win. Matthew McConaughey probably didn't win because he had won for Dallas Buyers Club recently. And True Detective, he swept up as well because he was so amazing in that. So I think Interstellar,
he was on fire around that time.
Dude, he had a run. And I think to Interstellar, with the ending, with what Kip Thorne, with the different timelines, with the entire ending trying to get back to Murph, I think it lost a lot of people. And I think if maybe the movie, which I love Interstellar, I don't want to change anything about it, but if it was maybe more accessible, McConaughey could have potentially won another Oscar for it. But it's all about these heady themes. It's all about momentum. And also, typically, like, when do big blockbusters win Academy Awards, right?
That's what I was going to say. Like, I think that part of the issue is that they're these epic blockbusters, and there's such a visual element to his films. Like, Nolan is a huge, he loves IMAX, right? And he thinks that that's the ideal way to watch his films. And so I agree with you. Like, it's not Scorsese with a 5-minute long monologue for a main character. It's a gigantic action sequence and mind-boggling visuals. Think about Inception with the city folding in on itself, or the crazy reverse example. Action scenes that are happening in Tenet and all of that. And so it's not. What's amazing is that, and this is why, I love Christopher Nolan. He's easily my favorite filmmaker, and I think, maybe the best filmmaker that we've had the last 20 years. And what's amazing is that he combines those incredible visuals and the amazing sound and everything, but at the same time does pull these great performances out of these great actors that he's able to cast. And so it's the combination of those things that make his films so enjoyable. But I agree with you. It's maybe not traditionally what, say the Academy has rewarded from an acting perspective, because he's done really well. Like, they've done well. Like, I feel like Wally Pfister has won Academy Awards, cinematography, visual effects. Like, a lot of his films have done well in those categories, I think, right?
Yeah, Nathan Crowley, he was up for BAFTA's Academy Awards for Dunkirk, just hearing about the stories that they create. Tenet with its visual effects and scope and sound editing and sound mixing. Technically, his movies are top notch. And they make bank, right? Tenet, let me look this up real quick. Tenet in 2020 was released kind of in peak pandemic time in 2020. And Tenet still pulled in $363 million worldwide in peak pandemic time. So people do go to everyone said it tanked, but no one, what kind of makes me mad? In 2021, low box office is the norm, unless you're Fast and Furious.
Right.
Or a couple movies that are released in China that are just massive blockbusters because that's such a huge market, and there's movies that are just making bank. But I wish somebody would be like, hey guys, remember when we said Tenet didn't make any money? Like we were kind of wrong about that, but no one's doing it. But I guess too, when we think about The Prestige, when I think about The Prestige, I'm not thinking about Bale's performance. I'm not thinking about Rebecca Hall, saying like, you said this today, I believe you today, not yesterday. I don't think about Bale's reaction to when the kid says, "Where's the bird's brother?" and Bale is just stumped. I mean, it's fine acting. When I do this, I think about the clones. I think about the top the top hats. I think about the who was who and when, and just when was when and who was who and what was what. And that, I guess whenever I think about that, I always just think about the twist. When I think about Dark Knight, I guess I do think about Heath Ledger, I guess. But when I think about Tenet, I think about the costumes and the suits and the action. So I think that does take away from some of the actors as well, because when there's so much spectacle, I do think it's tough to hang in there on screen. And I want to say something, though. I mean, I'm all for blockbuster filmmaking and people winning Oscars in blockbusters. Like, I felt like Ford versus Ferrari, Matt Damon and Christian Bale probably should have won something. Like, Ford versus Ferrari has made bank. Everyone loves it, but I still feel like it's underrated. But I like for the Oscars and Golden Globes, I like seeing the smaller movies win, because I feel like that gives them more. I don't know. I don't want a $1 billion movie winning Best Actor in Picture. Like, I was happy when Hurt Locker beat Avatar, because people talk about Hurt Locker now. Like, I like when that happens in award shows. So that, I guess I complain about it. I say that blockbusters don't get nominated. Bill Murray doesn't get nominated, but I'm also cool with the little fellas, the lesser known movies making, winning. But
yeah, for sure.
That's
and
neither here nor there. But
yeah, and listen, and this is another great. The Prestige is another example. It doesn't matter. This movie doesn't need Oscars in order to be rewatchable. In order to be look at that IMDb score. It's number 47, I think, out of the top 250. I did read somewhere that it's one of his lower Rotten Tomato scores, which is a little bit surprising.
Lower. Yeah, I think Tenet's lower, but it's one of the lower. But hey, so I just wanted to do something real quick where I'm not trying to like dogpile on people who didn't like this film, because I don't think that's fair. Everyone has their own opinion. But there are, at 76%, I don't know. This movie feels more like an 88%. So I'm reading some of these reviews, and like some of these people say that like there's nothing but shattered illusions. They're saying it does not impress as a magical act. Like, you're never particularly entertained. And then, like, it says it leaves the viewer confounded and confused. But while watching this movie, and after the reveal, and like someone called it like risible inanity, like they're saying that this movie's just total, like it has no direction. But were you confused at the end of this movie? Is there anything confounding about The Prestige? Because
I don't think so, but this seems to be the common criticism, I think, actually, that this movie maybe gets, but I think that Nolan gets sort of in general, where, again, for all that you and I are saying, we love the fact that he takes you on a journey and there's twists and turns along the way. And I mean, this film itself is, the whole story is premised on the idea of the magic trick itself, that the story itself has a pledge, a turn, and a prestige, a big reveal at the end. And the common criticism that I hear about Nolan is just that people seem to think, like, in the third act a lot of the time, that the explanations that are given for the things that are going on, that there's like, plot holes or something, or that the explanations aren't robust enough to truly or that they're contradictory in some way. Like, this is the thing that people sort of said about, like, Inception, for example. They're like, well, if these are the rules of this world, you can't then in the third act like violate some of those rules to resolve the storyline. I'm not sure that I buy that as much. I mean, again, there's and again, even with magic in general, there's an element where there needs to be a suspension of disbelief. You've got to want to be taken on this journey and want to, I guess, kind of get lost in the story a little bit and allow Nolan. Does this make sense? What
absolutely.
I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it too, I mean, I think we're all guilty of it sometimes, just like analyzing a movie to death. But Nolan is like what he said in an interview was that when you see a woman sawed in half at a magic show, you know that she is not being sawed in half. You're just there to see the trick. You don't even want to know the trick. You're just there to be entertained. Like a woman didn't get separated from her torso, didn't get separated from her, upper half of her body. So it's just you're there to be entertained. And I think with a lot of his movies, and I've been guilty of it before, and I've made some data articles on his movies, but more lovingly, I guess. It's just, I think he wants the audience to just sit back, relax, and watch a gigantic IMAX movie. Like he doesn't, and I think with Tenet, with all these, I think sometimes people get lost in like, when was this? When was that? When was this? So if you're doing that during a magician show, like, are you trying to enjoy it or are you trying to purposely wreck your fun? Because I think what Nolan's saying is that you should just sit back, relax, and let this dark theater, large auditorium with speakers just engage with it. Don't try to figure out the act. Does that make sense? Just
100%. And I
yeah.
think the phrase you just said, engage with it, is the perfect phrase, because I think to a certain degree, he's exploring some, deep philosophical ideas in a lot of his films. And he's not necessarily coming out and saying that he has all of the answers, and his characters oftentimes don't come away with all of the answers. Leonardo DiCaprio at the end of Inception, we're not 100% sure whether he's still dreaming. Is he back in his real life? The story is unresolved to a certain degree. And, some people, again, like try to pick that apart and go, well, when he was dreaming, it was this, and now he's awake, and so it's that, and there's contradictions. I think it's more the idea that Nolan is trying to explore these ideas. He's trying to have you engage with him at this sort of deep philosophical level. And just because all of the questions don't get answered and he doesn't necessarily spell it out in a super tight, concise way by the end of the story, it doesn't mean that, to me, that doesn't make it less enjoyable. I'm okay coming out of the theater with questions and feeling confused and, looking up. I was watching Tenet and I was looking up, that square puzzle thing that the movie was premised around. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. I was doing research like a week later, like trying to figure out what this was all about. And so to me, that's one of the enjoyable parts of these Nolan films, is coming out with my head spinning a little bit and going, man, I need to look into this and kind of learn a little bit more about some of these different ideas, or the different theories of time that are pervasive throughout all of his movies. And, I love looking into that stuff. I watched Interstellar. I was reading about black holes and theoretical physics. Again, the movie doesn't spell it all out for you, how that all necessarily works, because we don't know how all of that stuff necessarily works. But the idea of, engaging with that and thinking about that and building a story around some of these ideas, to me, it's what makes Nolan so enjoyable. But I understand, I guess it's not for everybody.
And I like the questions you had because I did the same thing. But I do think there are movies that have you leaving the theater asking good questions, and I think there's movies that have you leaving the theater answering bad questions. So with Prestige, you're wondering, like, okay, so which one was it who lived? Which Bale was it? And which clone died with Jackman? Like, when did he realize? Like, those are good questions to go research and discuss. But then there's a movie like The Dark Knight Rises where he has a nuclear bomb, drops it off in the sea, somehow ends up in Italy. Like, that's a bad question. Does that make sense? Like, there's like good questions and bad questions to ask. And I think Prestige makes you ask the good questions. I think Interstellar makes you ask the good questions. This is random, but Prometheus, that movie, Megan and I sat there for 2 hours one night going, did the aliens want to destroy Earth? Because, like, Jesus Christ, did they create Earth? Were they on the way to kill Earth? Like, what? Like, we got really out there with those questions. But I think that's kind of like what's neat about Nolan. And I guess this is a random story, but I went to go see Tree of Life with Megan. It's Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick.
Yeah,
I've never seen it. Yeah.
One of my favorite directors. And when we were in it, there were people like scoffing and they were laughing, and it was at an art house theater too, which kind of blows my mind. But when we walked out, I mean, it's a movie basically about Sean Penn thinking about his past on the anniversary of his brother's death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. He's just thinking about what is life? Where are we? And a lot of the views that we get of Brad Pitt, of Jessica Chastain, are sort of wisp-like and dreamlike, because when you look back at the past, they are not full memories. They are wisps. They are dreamlike. They are not complete, right? They're formed in your memory. But then when people walked out of Tree of Life, they're like, so is he saying that life is this with that? I'm like, no, it's just he's looking back. I don't know. So I guess with me, when I engage with movies, I'm not asking like, what is life? What is this question? I guess I let it wash over me, and I see it. I see like the plot at like the base of what it is. And I guess for me, the Prestige is about how just two men, one with infinite resources, another one without, in competition with each other, making each other great, but also ruining each other's lives. Like, but that's what it is. These two men drove each other to greatness, but then they also were each other's downfall. And I thought that was kind of interesting about how, the different dynamics between two men, and just the magicians had those same feuds. I mean, there were feuds going on in the book that this film was based on. So I guess for me, this is about two men who sacrifice everything, who aren't happy with what they have, who are almost evil enough to marry a woman and then torment her every other day with someone who doesn't love her. It's about drive. It's about what happens with that, what happens with obsession. But it's also told in a way that's just really enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I think you know
Yeah.
what, you nailed it, Phil. There's big questions in there about obsession and how far we're willing to go, and how that can, like kill people, and how that can end, the selfishness that comes with that. But then it's also a really enjoyable film that has 8.5 on IMDb from over 1 million votes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's more impressive, I think, than people give it credit for, because just the different, like the editing in this movie. Like, I think they said there's like 87 jump cuts in this film that goes around with the different time frames, and just the way that they torment each other. I mean, the bullet catch that comes back to haunt them. I mean, every little thing that they talk about, the Langford double, and which brother was it, and it all comes back to the hat. I mean, we see the hats in the beginning. It's a bold choice. Now, I guess, I don't know, I want to see how you feel about this, Phil, because I think Nolan fans, and I think you're just about the perfect Nolan fan, because you're not blindly worshiping this guy. You're just a fan of his craft and you enjoy his films. But then there's other people that just are saying, like, they're like, The Dark Knight is the greatest movie ever made. And I guess sometimes I react a little strongly to Nolan fans, but it's not Nolan's fault. I know it's not right of me to think that, but I guess sometimes, what am I trying to say?
He's
Nolan's
polarizing. He's
Yeah.
polarizing. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. Like,
Yeah.
people are super think that he can do no wrong, and then there's other people that for whatever reason like think that the guy sucks, which I just don't understand at all.
Yeah.
I think I read something, it was an old stat, but it was something like 7 out of his 10 at the time that he'd made 10 films, 7 out of 10 were in the IMDb top 250. I mean, the guy is a phenomenal filmmaker, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that everything that he touches turns to gold. I mean, I'm not a big Insomnia guy. Even Dunkirk, I thought,
Wasn't that
was
your
like
high school
okay.
yearbook quote? Wasn't that your high school yearbook quote? Not a big Insomnia guy.
Not a big Insomnia guy. It also didn't help when Dunkirk. So my story with Dunkirk was my wife and I went on a cruise. I actually, at my corporate job, won, a top performance award, and they sent us on a cruise. And I'd never been on a cruise before. And before leaving, I sort of said, so how bad, like, I get a bit motion sick, like, with the waves, is being on a cruise that bad? And I talked to lots of people that had been on, my parents had gone on, something like 25 cruises, and they said, oh, no, you won't even notice it. It's like walking around in a house. Like, it's completely normal. Well, the first night we were there, I'm literally rocking side to side going, I'm not supposed to notice this. Like, I literally felt like we were going to tip over. And so my wife had the same thing. Like, we both got super motion sick, and we were on this cruise in January, which I guess is a rough time of year, for waves and whatnot. And so we're, sailing on these rocky seas, just like completely sick the whole time. And so my wife and I spent most of the cruise just sort of like laying in bed, trying not to be sick. And we watched a whole bunch of Fast and Furious movies and just like watched movies basically the entire time. And we watched Dunkirk, which is a movie essentially all about sailing on the, rough open seas. And so maybe that detracted a little bit from our Dunkirk experience. The fact that we felt like we were on one of the ships in the film.
With Cillian Murphy. Yeah, see, I saw it on IMAX and I adored it. So I guess it's all perspective, right? And how you watch it.
I got to go back to it.
Yeah, and I guess it's just all, oh man, that sounds like a great trip you went on, by the way.
Oh, yeah, just phenomenal. I was literally sitting in my office 2 days later trying to work, and the entire room was rocking back and forth like I was Jack Sparrow on the Black Pearl.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I actually, I just watched all those movies, and I wrote a video about him. I hope it sees the light of day sometime. I'll share it with you. And everyone listening, this is a really inside baseball thing. But yeah, I guess with Nolan, where he's just largely he was like you said, 7 of his 10 movies are on the IMDb top 250. I mean, this is a guy who has made blockbusters that are revered. And I guess there's always a blowback to directors who make those kind of movies. And so I think The Dark Knight Rises kind of opened the door a little bit for that.
Yeah.
And then, Dunkirk, people are like, I didn't like it. But I mean, it's more of like a score. It's more about the mood. It's more about the feel. It's more about making you not catch your breath. And then Tenet, which I don't know, man. People said that they couldn't. Maybe I was primed for this. But when I watched Tenet, I just paid attention. And like Antonio Banderas in The 13th Warrior, he just listened. And I heard what people were saying. Someone said that if you understand Tenet, you're dumb smart, and that kind of hurt me because I was just like, it's two groups who are trying to either destroy the world or prevent them from destroying the world, and then they have this system going back. They're trying to get this MacGuffin, and that's it. I don't know. That was I don't know. It's easy. I
enjoyed it. Visually, it was spectacular. I gotta say, it was a little hard to hear. I'm gonna go back to it. I'm a big, this is a deep personal confession, but I'm a big movie watcher with subtitles. Like even if I can hear the movie perfectly fine, I still like to watch it with the subtitles. If it's like a Guy Ritchie film, then definitely, with subtitles. Mm-hmm. I just find, I don't know, maybe I'm a reader. I seem to maybe I've got more of the reading, learning style than the audio style. I don't know, but I'll give Tenet another chance. I enjoyed it. It was visually just, one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And the action sequences and the sound and the music, like you're saying, the look, the feel. I love that about Nolan's films, but to dig more into the plot and into, a little bit more of what was going on, All right,
so what are your favorite parts of this movie? Like what moments do you love the most in The Prestige? And this is a tough one because when I told people I was doing this, like, oh, can I be a guest? Can I do this? And then reading about it, knowing about the 8.5, the millions of just this movie's almost impossible to talk about in one episode. I think you'd almost need to do a minute by minute to give it justice.
Yeah.
So even trying, I don't think would be. I think in an episode like this, we've done the right thing. We talked about the themes. We've talked about the Nolan of it all, its existence in his filmography. But I also think it's loaded with good moments. So I guess that instead of us just going and this and this and this, like, what are some of your moments that you love in this movie?
For sure. So I think that this is one of Michael Caine's best. Obviously he's a constant in Nolan films. I think that this is one of his best Nolan film performances as well. I think he's great as Alfred in Batman, but I really love some of the moments that he had in this film. So the scene, I love the use of the stopwatch. Again, such another like a Nolan signature.
Oh my gosh.
Where they drop Piper Perabo into the water tank and he starts the stopwatch and he's standing there with the axe. And so the first time all you hear is the steps around the stage and the stopwatch. And man, Christopher Nolan can create tension with the sound of a ticking clock. Again, he does it through in Dunkirk, it happens in Interstellar, and he uses it so well here. And then so they do it the first time where they do the trick successfully, and then the second time when the clock is just ticking, and then all of a sudden he's like out like a shot, to start trying to chop the glass tank. That definitely is an incredible scene. Obviously, a very sad scene, but just the tension that's built in there with just such a simple element, a small pocket watch. Love that.
Oh, such a good moment. And once again, his usage of time. Jeez, we could do 8 episodes just on his usage of time
Oh yeah.
in films. I think
Yeah.
one
What
of my
about you?
favorite, I think one of my favorite part is when the great Danton, Hugh Jackman, when he has to fall under the stage and Root, his double,
Yes.
gets all the applause.
Yes.
That's kind of brilliant because not only are you showing it, right? You're showing him getting the applause and Jackman not. Like this guy could have one of the most successful shows ever, but he chooses he wants the adoration. He does not want anybody else getting that adoration. And I think that's really interesting because that clouds his judgment when Cutter, Michael Caine, tells him, like, listen, Bale has a double, right? Like Borden, Fallon, Bernard, it's a double. He's not doing magic. Tesla did not build him a machine. It is a double. But since Jackman would never do that, when he is thinking to himself that I want that praise, he doesn't even consider the double because in his head he's thinking I want that applause. So I just think it's a really neat difference between the two characters. You know what's interesting too is Bale. It's kind of interesting because Bale every other night he gets the applause as one of the brothers. So he can be kind of high and mighty, but he's still getting that adoration. It's just every other night. He gets that feed. Jackman does not. And he's a showman. They've established it early on. He's a showman. So it's just, I think that's my favorite part because just watching how angry he gets because people aren't applauding him, even though he's making all the money. It's his show, but he's not getting the standing ovation and he can't handle it. It's good. It's a good character beat, and I think it establishes everything that is left to come. His like idea that he does not have a double really, when he captures one of them, he doesn't even think that there might be another one around there kicking out. Like he never says this Fallon guy is always around. Like who is this Fallon guy? So it's just I love that aspect of the storytelling. And I think that's mine. And I know I was very long-winded, but I love all that.
No, I'm right there with you. When he takes the bow under the stage, right? And I think I remember seeing that in the trailer. And it's just such a cool shot too, where like the light is sort of shining through like the slats in the wood. Mm-hmm. But it's just such a you're exactly right. It's such a diminished experience for him. Like at one point he considers, well, maybe Root and I should switch places. And they're like, well, Root couldn't actually, like the whole point is to build the tension of the trick. That's where the actual skill and showmanship is required. Coming out and taking the bow and receiving the applause and the adoration doesn't actually take any skill as a magician, but that's what he craves. That's what it's about for him. For Borden, it's about the skill and the craftsmanship. And so that I agree with you. Like that moment perfectly encapsulates the dichotomy between those two characters.
And also, I think. Oh wait, it's your turn. Sorry, I don't want to jump in.
Well, I'll jump in with a couple more. So, like, I just loved, again, similar to Fight Club, right? So you probably know this already, but there are all these like little hints and like Easter eggs throughout Fight Club, pointing to the twist that's going to happen at the end, to the fact that they're the same person. And in rewatching this, and rewatching The Prestige, I noticed so many little hints where Rebecca Hall tells Christian Bale that they're expecting a baby, and it's just as Fallon is leaving. So she comes home and then and Fallon leaves, and she tells him that they're expecting a baby, and the first thing that he says is, "Oh, we should have told Fallon," because I guess at that point, if I remember correctly, the brother that was dressed as Fallon was the one that actually loved Sarah, and so he tries to sort of be like enthusiastic about the fact that they're expecting a baby and like doesn't do a great job selling it to her. And the fact that his reaction was like, "Oh, we should have told Fallon," like that was such a cool little hint. I also would say,
and it's the brother.
Yeah. I would say too, the how could he not know which knot he tied? Such a cool moment. And
Yeah,
that's such a crazy place to have a funeral, eh? Like that shot of the when
beautiful.
it's that was such a strange little set that they had
Kind of
there.
modern too, right? It wasn't a
Yeah.
Victorian graveyard. Another Nolan keeping it modern, keeping it
Yeah.
more. Yeah, I love the look of that.
And so why doesn't he know which knot he tied? Is it because one brother tied the Langford double and he feels guilty about it and so he doesn't want to admit to the other brother what he did? Like why doesn't he know which knot he tied?
Oh, I think there are some holes, right? Like why doesn't he just take out his clone of the tank every night as opposed to making all the different tanks and transporting them,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
know you know why because it makes an awesome visual at the end. But
Yeah.
it's there are moments where you say that, and I guess what we have to believe is that the brother lied to him, or like I don't remember. So then he doesn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah, you
But
just won't admit it. Yeah.
I do want to say though, what Nolan does though, sometimes these movies where two people battle each other, or romantic comedies. I'm not saying this is romantic comedy, but it's all based on a miscommunication and no communication between the two. Can like you know what? You know when there's like a miscommunication, then people hate each other, and like guys, if you just like talk to each other for a second, you would be fine. But this movie
Mhm.
does a great job of. I mean, after Piper Perabo, who's in her limited screen time, she's very likable in this movie
Totally.
as Julia after she dies and after the rope thing, these two aren't going to have a pint together, right? These two, I mean, and then after the bullet catch, and after the bird gag when the woman gets blood on her, after the journal, after sending poor Scarlett Johansson is Olivia in this. I do think an Oscar nominated actress, she was a little bit wasted in it.
Yeah.
That's like my main gripe. But and maybe Rebecca Hall a little bit too because she's good. But I hate seeing her done like that. It's like come on, Bale. But I do think the way they establish that these two are going for each other's throats. This couldn't have been settled by a pint at a pub. This couldn't have been settled by Cutter having them shake hands. What these two have, you're not backing down from. And that's like I think one of the reasons why this movie works so well too is you buy into this conflict between these two and their different
Mhm.
ideas. I mean, Jackman wants the applause. He's rude. He sends his assistant away. He is in no means a good guy, but I think sometimes you're trying to make him out to be the bad guy and then you want Bale to be the good guy. But this is
The
a man who has lied to a woman for, years, who drove her to suicide, who doesn't care. So it's
dude, the
both
line that he had where he says, I don't care about my wife, I care about his secret, like is
yeah.
just absolutely stone cold.
He's so stone like so he's more stone cold, and then Jackman's more petty. He's more rich. He's more like I want it, I need it, I can't have it. Like I'm not gonna stop. But I just love that once these trains collide, the way they got there felt organic. They didn't
Mhm.
feel like guys just talk. All right, like just he didn't steal your Game Boy. Like just like, guys, like just I don't know. So I think that's one of the more organic parts of this movie is just the hatred between these two, and I think that's why it works so well. Because in a lot of these movies when people hate each other, then they become best friends. That's not this movie, and I think I like it more because of that. It's very different. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, and I mean, and the other big, I would say the other big theme too is just the idea of the secrets, right? That these guys keep and the lack of trust that they have for, Christian Bale doesn't even want to tell his wife how he does his trick. He tells her nephew, never reveal how you do the trick because once you tell them, you'll be nothing to them, right? The value is
Hmm.
in the secret. And so the fact that that these guys their entire lives are devoted to this craft, that again the brothers like the commitment that they have to their craft, like you said, they're never going to just give that up and in the name of friendship and getting along with the other magicians. They're committed to it like with their whole lives.
Yeah, I love that about it too. Like once these two get set against each other, there's no looking back. And I don't know, I dig it. And I was thinking about that when I watched it, and I really enjoyed that about this too. Like there's just you don't like you know how many movies we've seen where there's like a reconciliation, like Hobbs and Shaw. hate each other when
Yeah.
they become best
Yeah.
friends. That's not this movie. No,
Yeah.
I don't even think they like each other that much in the beginning.
Well, I mean,
And
Christian Bale leaves, and right away Hugh Jackman is saying, this guy's reckless. I don't trust. He's basically like, talking pretty badly about him right away. And Michael Caine says, yeah, he's a magician just like you. You shouldn't trust him, right? I also love the narration in this film, or like I guess, or maybe it's not even
the court
narration, but
case,
what's that? Sorry.
well, like the journal, the
Yeah,
court case.
the internal dialogue, right? It felt very much there's great sort of internal dialogue that happens in Memento as well. The way that Guy Pearce, you really are understanding what's going on in that character's head.
Where am I? Am I
And
chasing him? No, wait, he's chasing me.
he's chasing me. Yeah, classic. And that you get that from Hugh Jackman in this film. And actually, it's interesting because the way that the dialogue is read, sort of the pace and the intonation, it sounds very similar to Guy Pearce in Memento. And I don't know, it really kind of gets you in his head and gives you that feeling of the obsession that this guy has with this trick and with this act and with this craft. That was another element that I really, really loved, was that internal dialogue from Hugh Jackman.
It's good storytelling.
Yeah.
It's well written. It's getting an expository dialogue. It's getting information out there. That journal's in his hand, so he's gonna read it. But then it's part of the trick, and so it's all just it's a. You know what? You know why I think this works, right? As much as I adore Tenet, I can see how people would hate it. This movie, I don't think it's cute with its twists and turns, and I don't think it's that confounding. I think this is before these two maybe have gotten bigger and a little bit maybe more cute and precious about how they write. I find this movie to be very straightforward and ish, right, for Nolan. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. So where does this movie rank? Like, I'd be interested to know, because again, yeah, I'm definitely an unabashed Nolan fan. He's my favorite filmmaker for sure. For you, where does this, like, what would you say if you were to give me your top 5 Nolan films? What do you think his best film is?
Okay. So I just want to say real quick on Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook, I reached out and I asked people, hey, what are your favorite Nolan films? And resoundingly, I would say 1, 2, and 3, it's Memento and Prestige, or Prestige and Memento. Then it's either Dark Knight or Batman Begins.
Right.
There was a couple for Inception, but for the most part, let's see, Memento, Dark Knight, Memento, Prestige, Memento, Dark Knight, Memento, Batman Begins, Prestige. So for me, like I'm not trying to be the hipster with my votes, right? I'm not trying to be, I don't know. It's like someone says Jaws 2 is better than Jaws. Like, that's just, you've lost your mind.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to pick top 5, I'm going to put it in the way that I would watch them. Like, would I want to watch them again and again and again? So for me, it's Memento because it's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's Prestige because I don't think it gets old. Then I would have to say, oh man, it's like, do you want filet mignon or, filet mignon?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not going to be Following. It's not going to be Insomnia. It's not going to be Dark Knight Rises. And I adore Interstellar, but it's not going to be Interstellar, which leaves me with Tenet, Dunkirk, Dark Knight, and
Inception.
Batman Begins, and Inception.
Inception.
I don't think about Inception. Inception is just so massive to me that it just, the movies I want to watch are like hangout pictures. I don't know. And I know that sounds crazy, but like A Knight's Tale, like those are the kind of movies I love watching over and over. So Inception, I'm going to take out because it's just so timey and twisty and turny, and it's beautiful. But okay, I'll do Batman Begins because it's super traditional with the narrative. I'll do, people are going to think I'm crazy for leaving out Dark Knight, but like people talking about Joker all the time has just soured me. And that's not Nolan's fault. But you know what? I'll add Tenet and Dunkirk. So I'll say Memento, Prestige, Batman Begins, Tenet, and Dunkirk. And people are like, Mark, you said Tenet. You know how crazy that is? And you just said Inception's too crazy? Like, you've lost your mind. But yeah, that's my top 5.
Cool.
What's yours?
Mine's really different. So for me, I am going to put I wrestled with 1 and 2 for the longest time, and I still feel this way. I would say that Inception is my favorite movie that I ever saw in theaters. Like, I can remember walking out of that theater just with my mind absolutely blown, thinking, yeah, that was the greatest film I had ever seen. But since I've had kids and I have daughters, um,
Interstellar.
that father-daughter relationship in Interstellar, I connect with that in such a personal way, and the fact that it's their love for each other and their relationship like saves the world essentially. Their connection, the fact that she never gave up hope that her dad was going to come back one day. Yeah, man, I can barely hold it together thinking thinking about
Oh,
that.
wow.
She says at the end when she's like an old lady in the hospital bed, he says, "How did you know that it was me?" And she said, "I knew that my dad would come back." Like, yeah, man. And Hans Zimmer's score in Interstellar. I mean, we didn't really talk much about the score. I really enjoyed the score in Prestige, but when Nolan and Hans Zimmer, when that partnership formed, which I think their first movie together was Dark Knight, that to me really took Nolan's movies to a whole new level. And so for me, it's Interstellar #1, Inception #2, Dark Knight #3. And again, I think Hans Zimmer actually plays a big role. He does the score for all 3 of those films, and the score in each of them is incredible. Dark Knight's #3 because I really do think that for me, like, I'm not a big superhero movie guy, but that to me is the best superhero movie ever made and changed that entire genre. So yeah, Dark Knight for sure. Memento #4, and I'll put Prestige as #5.
So we have 2. That's good. I mean, 2 of the same movies in there. I guess I just like lo-fi, but Tenet is not lo-fi at all. But my top 2, Memento and Prestige, I guess it's like me with Wes Anderson, where I love Bottle Rocket. I love Rushmore. I adore the Royal Tenenbaums. As much as I
Quirky
love,
movies.
yeah, as much as I love the French Dispatch and Grand Budapest Hotel and Moonrise Kingdom, as beautiful as they are, I mean, I love them all. I own all the Criterion. French Dispatch is one of my favorite movies this year, but it's just that lo-fi, the kind of smaller stories, I guess I'm always drawn to. And that's not a fault of the bigger stories. I guess it's just what I connect to. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I guess when my daughter Mallory gets a little older, I should have named her Murph, but I might be feeling that more. But I will say, the finest acting moment in any of his films. I mean, there's a lot of them, but it's got to be his crying scene
Oh
in.
man.
Because listen, Tenet and Dunkirk are great, but they're not really about the performances. I think Guy Pearce has to be in there. I mean, Joey Pants in Memento too.
Yeah.
I think there's some strong work in Prestige. I mean, Heath Ledger. It's got to be like a toss up between like a Heath Ledger
And
moment and
McConaughey.
a McConaughey between those
Yeah.
two. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Jessica
crying scene.
Chastain is
Oh,
really
she's so good. Yeah.
good. You know,
Boy.
yeah, and you know who's actually really good in Interstellar in like a very, very brief part is Casey Affleck. His
As the
brief
older.
role where he's talking on the screen as the son. And did you know that Timothy Chalamet plays Casey Affleck's character like when he's younger?
Yeah, the little guy. Yeah.
I didn't realize that until recently.
He's been kicking around for a while.
That guy's on fire right now.
Dune. Have you seen Dune?
Not yet. I read the book this year, and I've been dying to see it. So I gotta get on that.
Dude, get
You
on
saw
it.
it? It was
Oh yeah, dude, the amount of wool moments are just gonna blow your mind. It's beautiful looking. It's pretty
amazing.
cool. It's kind of pretentious, but I'm part of a critic group, and I got a Blu-ray screener of Dune, and that's the only I've you only get DVDs for screeners, which is fine. I don't take anything for granted. That's all great that they're sending them to me. I'm not complaining, but Denis Villeneuve was like, you're not sending out DVDs. Like, I told Warner Brothers, like, you're sending out Blu-ray screeners. Like, send out. So yeah, but I'm excited to kind of tear into it again and watch it. See those sandworms on my TV. But this was good. Hey, thank you so much for joining me, man. This was a fun episode. I'm glad we got to unpack this. This was great.
Yeah, thanks, man. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I know the movies, films, and flicks community were excited about this one, and I really appreciate you having me on to talk about it.
And what I'm just glad we got to. I mean, this movie's been talked about ad nauseum. Like it's just there's so much out there about this. So I'm glad we got to talk about the themes. Like I think we added something different to the discussion. And I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you.
All right, Phil. Well, if you will enjoy this episode, so go back and listen to Never Back Down, which was I'm not gonna say a surprise hit, but it's been a big hit for movies, films, and flicks.
I
Which
love that. That movie, like I
yeah,
said at the end of that episode, that movie has such a special place in my heart. So I'm glad, I'm glad that people are digging it. Never back
Jaimin
down. Who would
Hunsu,
have
man,
known?
Jaimin Hunsu. And also, I feel like if these were MMA fighters, Christian Bale's character would be what Charles Oliveira right now, who
Yeah.
is just steamrolling people and coming back and just looking beautiful. And then Jackman's Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Both great fighters, both champs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be my comparison right there. Like,
Well, I mean, and they do both have like, the broken leg and all of that in common as well, right? So yeah,
yeah,
that's a good call.
that's fun. But no, thank you so much for joining me, Phil.
My pleasure. Anytime.
So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, from Phil Briggs, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.